Hey, what's up guys, it's Oakley, and what we're going to be doing in this video is covering a bit of what was just shown, and that is going to be the vampire counts. First, we're going to be starting off with this trailer that they revealed, which is going to be super cool. It's basically an Empire patrol led by a witch hunter here moving forward, and they're obviously, they're looking for trouble, pushing in a graveyard area with necromancers who can raise the undead. Probably not the best of ideas, but anyways, they're moving out here, obviously very cautiously, and then they're going to be set upon on all sides. So very cinematic trailer, and this is all in anticipation for the reveal of the vampire counts who have been held behind closed door for a long time. They showed Chaos and kind of Bretonia before we even saw vampire counts, and the vampire counts are supposed to be one of the main playable races, so kind of weird that they held it off for so long. I believe it's probably one of the factions that required the most amount of work just because they behave so differently. So tweaking all that, maybe it's even tied to the fact that they pushed the game back by another month. But there's more controversy surrounding that. But anyways, for this video, they reveal Manfred von Carstein here in game. With the skeletal warriors, the bats, all kinds of units. This is just, the wide variety of units that we're going to be able to see from the vampire counts. You can see the all undead / zombie units, and then brief view of the campaign as you fly over here. Going to be zooming in on some Empire settlements, and it transitions here to Altdorf, where we get to see these awesome close-up views, steam tanks moving up through there, the wide plazas that were mentioned before, and finally the main gates. And this is where we see even more of the vampire count units here. A mounted guy there, some grave guards, and this giant beast that's going to be able to charge through the gates and attack it. Hellstorm batteries, all those trying to bombard the vampire counts as they push forward. So overall, the trailer just goes above and beyond once again with the cinematic view. Very cool. We see some of the siege ladders and siege towers moving up here. That's always interesting to me. Notice how the siege towers are also different than what we saw from the orcs. So again, the variety in this game is going to be super, super cool. Each faction playing and behaving differently. The defense here being held up by, tons of pikes right through here, and then a magician basically riding a Pegasus here, but he gets eaten up by a zombie dragon. And here's going to take aim at Vlad von Carstein, but hits some of the Fellbats. So anyways, the trailer is cool. So anyways, the reason I didn't cover this sooner is because I was actually at the event where they unveiled this. I was invited because I'm living in San Francisco, and a lot of CA's events for the US are held in San Francisco, so I kind of just went over after work. So I got to see there. We played the game hands-on, but I basically just got to play with what was in what you guys saw probably from the live stream, so I got to play that on repeat, talk to the developers, talk to people from the community, Heir of Carthage, Prince of Macedon, a bunch of different guys. Angry Joe was there, so it was great to see everyone back together again. And yeah, I got to play hands-on with the vampire counts for a couple times. They had this whole cool setup, and yeah, I got some signatures from people because I'll be doing a giveaway. You guys have mentioned, and yes, I do realize that I've reached 100,000 subscribers, which is a huge benchmark, so I will be commemorating that soon. Got a lot of stuff in the works, but with the busy week, it was hard for me to cover that. Anyways, I'm just going to do a brief overview. These are still images that I just took from the live stream. I'll link that below where you can go ahead and watch the replay. They just played it over and over again. But anyways, we saw the vampire counts here, and they have a bunch of units, and it's just straight up from the tabletop. Nothing out of the ordinary here. The units are rather large. The zombies and the skeletal warriors have units of 160, but they're super, super weak. This particular scenario here was basically 3 greenskin armies centralizing together, and you have to knock them all out. So there's a main one with archers and artillery firing on you, a lot of heroes on the flanks, some wolf riders and reinforcements coming in. So it was a pretty interesting battle. But yeah, the vampire count units are just like you'd expect them to be in the tabletop. They have a lot of really crappy units, so like I said, the zombies and the skeletal warriors, who look cool. You zoom in and they look, they're fully fleshed out units. These skeletal warriors, if you zoom in, have the bones with kind of morsels of flesh hanging off of them and mail coats on top. These zombies, even if you get close, really still have the the decaying flesh, and they have they're presumably zombies from reanimated Empire troops, because they kind of have the state troop looking features to them. So up close they're pretty cool, but you can tell the animations are still off. It looked kind of weird. Here is kind of a blurry image I grabbed of the fell bats that you can actually have in the game. So these guys are clusters of bats. I was really worried how they're going to animate these guys, but it looks pretty convincing. They float above the ground. You can move them in clusters. They're super, super fast. And in this scenario, they were used to attack the enemy artillery. At least that's how I used them. You send them out first, and they just make a beeline for the enemy artillery. Then to attack, it's just like any other air unit. They swoop down, and then they kind of have this animation where they're constantly attacking the ground. We also saw these dire wolves, which again, very, very fast, but semi-cheap and weak units. But these guys are awesome. All the Vampire Counts units also instill fear, I believe. So these guys were great for countering some of the weaker greenskin units, and these guys are fast. So the main strategy for this battle was send most of your units up through the center, make sure your fodder troops are absorbing enemy fire, archer fire, and all that. And then on the flanks, that's where you commit some of your faster troops to tie down the enemy force as you plow up through the middle. I did want to show off some of the magic abilities from Manfred von Karstein. He was crazy. He has 2 different types of lores that you can cycle through. If you look on the right, it's the lore of the death and lore of, I think, necromancy. I can't remember. But anyways, he has basically 6 abilities for each of those, so almost like 11 or 12 abilities in total. So it was crazy having to cycle between all these, not knowing what happened. But he has, you know, buff abilities, debuff abilities, something like Gaze of Nagash, which has magic missiles. He has Doom and Darkness, a bunch of these different things that I was super overwhelmed by. But down the road, it's gonna be really cool to, you know, level up your guy and unleash all this stuff on your enemy. One of the cool things that you'll notice if you watch the stream is there's actually an ability that he has to raise the dead, and this happens in game. So it basically what it does is you select an area and an entire unit of zombies raises up from the ground. There's an animation where it's kind of like dusty on the ground, and then hands start reaching up and they kind of emerge out of the ground and start fighting. So you can do this where you're engaged in combat and you can raise the dead behind enemy lines and have them attack an engaged force from the rear. So really cool. There are some restrictions on it. You can't raise the dead on top of walls. Obviously that would bug out. And then you can't raise the dead if your army roster is still full. I wasn't really sure if there was a mechanic. I don't think you have to kill troops to be able to do that. But on the campaign map, you may actually have to, because we've had, we've been told previously or heard rumors that there is some dead body counter or something like that that feeds the vampires recruitment. So wait to hear more on that. I didn't hear anything about that, although I know there were some closed door events where they got to see some extra stuff that I didn't. So in the coming days, we'll have to keep an eye out for that type of news. But the battle itself was really cool. I like how the vampire counts play and look. They still didn't look fully polished. There was a bunch of units that kind of marched in lockstep. The animations weren't quite right. Some of the units were just kind of crazy. Like every unit, it seemed like had too many effects around it. Like if you zoomed in on the zombies, they just have like smoke clouds around them, almost like when you switch to you remember Rome 1 when you had, or Medieval, when you switch your trebuchet to the cow carcass shot, and when it lands on the ground, it kind of has putrid smoke and it's all green. It kind of has this effect on it with flies. That's kind of what a lot of the vampire counts units were, and it kind of looked overly cartoonish, so I hope you turn that down. Here I'm highlighting the Blackworks, which we saw really intense units. Look at their stats, they're just killer. I do have to say the greenskin heroes and character models looked absolutely glorious. We did get to see a lot of heroes duking it out on the battlefield here. So Durbach, Durant Kilha, obviously with the funny names. We got to see a lot of those duels, so that was intense. And then after the event, I went ahead and did some more research, and basically a couple things have been announced. Heinrich Kemmler and Manfred von Karstein are 2 of the confirmed guys, legendary lords for the vampire count, so necromancers there / battle mages, so that's going to be really cool. Obviously there's more to come soon, and like I said, we're going to be celebrating 100,000 subscribers this weekend. I'm really busy this week, but I hope to get to it this weekend. I have a documentary on the Praetorian Guards I want to unleash, so a lot of cool stuff. Stay tuned for more. See ya.